What's up, everybody? Welcome to On the Record, the Fat Records fan podcast, where we're going album by album, side by side, and roughly chronological through the whole damn catalog. And I just want to say, our hearts here at On the Record go out to the people of England who lost their dear queen recently.
I'm sorry to hear about the passing of Prince Philip's cousin.
Long live the king.
Charles is in charge, man.
I'm mad that you made that reference. Very that joke. I'm dead serious. That's the first time I've heard someone make a goddamn Charles in charge reference, but that's genius.
I mean, I really had to stop myself from pulling the theme music and finding a bunch of clips of him trying to be king.
Find like a Scott Baio filter so we all look like Chachi.
Yeah.
It's Ben Brennan, joined by Alex Newman and Josh Piquet. And today we're going to talk about Propagandhi, Let's Talk More Rock. So, looking through the liner notes, this album was released on April 23rd, 1996. The lineup is Pete, also known as Chris Hanna, on guitar and vocals, L.A. Johnny John Shabadoo, John
Great
K.
Simpsons
Sampson.
joke there.
On basic vocals is John K. Sampson. Harrison George, aka George Dredd, aka Gaff, aka George Stamilewski, on drums and backing vocals. This was recorded at Razor's Edge in San Francisco, California, and recorded and produced by Ryan Rocky Dennison. Great. The album cover is the promotional poster of the 1984 Calgary Stampede. Now, that is not the professional sports team, also not referring to the professional wrestling
Yeah.
organization.
I genuinely was like, is this like a weird Bret Hart connection? Like, are we going to be able to talk about the Hart Foundation on here?
They're all named after the same rodeo that happens in Calgary every year since, I think the 19th century. All right, so we're gonna go into side one. So we actually have some real questions and prompts for once here. Uh, why is nation states so damn good?
This is the first Propagandhi song I ever heard. I don't know about you guys.
I think it was whichever one they put on one of the fat comps.
This one, Nation States, was on Fat 2, I believe.
So,
but it was a demo version because it doesn't have the studio version has a bunch of really cool vocal harmonies, and I think the demo is just a little bit sloppier. It's a little more of the no effectsy style from How to Clean Everything. Yeah, it's I mean it's not a huge departure, but you can tell it's a demo for sure.
Do you think that this was from the original recording that they tried to do of this album but had to scrap because they weren't prepared?
I mean, it may have just been, my guess is just what they had on hand at the time. They didn't want to throw something from How to Clean Everything on there, considering, at that point it'd probably be a year or two old, I guess, depending on when that fat comp came out. Yeah. It also could have just been from the same session too. It could have just been from the same writing session, and it wasn't quite finished enough to throw on, How to Clean Everything.
Yeah, I think that's possible. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best songs that this band ever wrote.
Absolutely. It's a top 5 Propagandhi song still for me to this day.
It is absolutely incredible. And I am always, anytime I listen to it, I'm always in awe at how he was able, how did he figure out how to vocalize those first 2 verses? I don't.
The whole song, really. I mean, it's it almost feels like a perpetual motion machine where it just keeps how is he going to sing any faster than he already has?
Yeah, it's such a mouthful, and I wonder how he even put it together.
It's the entire song is peak Chris Hanna all around. The humor, the lyrics, the linguistics, the delivery, the weird cadence at times, the ability to shoehorn in words like prophetize and another 3-syllable word 2 seconds later. which doesn't seem possible because it just feels like word pasta at that point, and he somehow makes it work. It's like a weird Canadian Greg Graffin moment where like he's just singing a college textbook to you.
Yeah. Uh, just words that you just don't expect to hear and be like think and like singing along to, like in the barcodes of these neo-colonials.
Alongside like a two-step, like jaunty drum beat behind it.
Yeah.
Talking about it being like a textbook too, and the kind of, I think one of the key lines in the song is, "And I'm just a kid. I can't believe I got to worry about this kind of shit."
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think across the entire record, um, so I don't know if, I mean, we'll talk about later one of the tracks gets introed with, I think, is that Noam Chomsky talking?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Noam Chomsky is like his influence is all over this record. If you have
Oh,
read
yeah.
any of his writings, or listened to him talk, and I think this is just one of many examples on this album of just talking about a lot of the topics that you would hear him talk about.
Well, G7 Welcoming Committee also put out, I think, some Noam Chomsky.
Yeah, I would almost
spoken word
put
did they?
money on them having done that, yeah.
Okay.
At the very least, they did like a spoken word release or something like that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I mean, personally, I just I love that last part of the song when he just says, "Can you fucking believe what a stupid world? Fuck this bullshit display of class loyalties. The media and our leaders wrap it up in a flag. Shit rag, hooray!" It's just chef's kiss, man.
Dude, and
Um,
it's delivered in such a snotty, like,
yeah,
"Isn't life grand?" kind of tone.
right.
It also sounds like it's about to fall apart at any moment too,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
which is a quality I really like in songs.
I mean, it also just like that relates to the topic at hand too.
Yeah.
Um, I just it's just an absolutely amazing track, front to
Yeah,
back.
the chaos of the music matches the chaos of the words really, really well.
Yeah, really fantastic.
So, do you guys have any other songs that you would kind of prefer to focus on immediately, or should we just go back to the start?
I mean, I'm good.
Um,
Wherever you wanna go, whatever you wanna
yeah.
sort of jump
All right,
to.
let's loop back around here then to apparently I'm a PC fascist because I care about both human and non-human animals. What do you guys think of this song?
I think it's a great opener. I mean, this band always kills it with How to Clean Everything. It was Anti-Manifesto we talked about. Oh, excuse me. How it's kind of like a perfect opener because it's everything that that band was at the time. And I feel like for this record, you can't pick a better song to start with because I mean, you're putting all the beliefs right out on Front Street. Like it was
Yeah.
in a few interviews, it's mentioned that like this record was intentionally a lot more confrontational than How to Clean Everything was. And I think this is a pretty good way to start a record with that sort of intent behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this entire album is just, like, spitting in the face of the fans that they don't want.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the quote, and I think it's just probably on their Wikipedia is where I got it. I think about how they kind of just did this album. This album was a way to weed out, the people they didn't want to be a part of things that just didn't want to, people that were just there to fuck shit up. I guess kind of.
Yeah, it was they got all these fans that were, like, these naive kids that didn't really care about what they were actually singing about. They were just there to mosh and, I guess, yeah, bust some skulls or some shit. Um, and they didn't wanna be around those people. That's not what these guys were involved in the punk scene to do. They weren't there to party. They were there to connect with people, who had their same beliefs.
Yeah, if I can read the quote real quick, Chris says, "When How to Clean came out, we had no idea anyone would like it. Then we went and played some shows, and all of a sudden, oh, who are all these fucking jocks and skaters and surfers here? Fuck them," says Hannah. "Let's draw a line in the sand Make sure we're not misunderstood. We have these values. Let's make sure nobody misunderstands them, even if it separates the wheat from the chaff and we're the chaff and it's just us. Let's lay it out on the table. And that's exactly what this whole record does.
Yeah, it does. How different does it feel to you guys compared to How to Clean Everything?
If it wasn't for Chris, I would just have thought this was a different band. I mean, for a long time, I was really resistant to this record. And I think it's because it is such a like middle ground, like transitional album, because in a matter of 2 albums, they went from No Effects to Judas Priest. Like it's a huge, huge shift. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's major flashes of it on here, but it's a weird record because it doesn't quite have the snotty charm as much as How to Clean Everything did, but it's not every song is a ripper like Empires. It's like trying to find their place, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes it so unique. Because it really it doesn't fit in with what they were doing before,
Yeah.
but it kind of does. It sort of does, and it kind of still fits in with what Fat has on the label at this time, but
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
it also kind of doesn't. Um, yeah, it's definitely a band in transition trying to figure out where they actually want to be, and you know they can definitely play, but they learn how to play music better later, but that doesn't necessarily mean in my case that I think that those later songs are better. I don't know, there's something about this middle ground that makes it kind of special. They found something unique here. Um that I can't really find another record out there that sounds really similar to this one.
Yeah, it's like a blend of like three different styles
Right.
of like you
And
have
that's really cool.
some of the songs are just kind of like pop punk songs. Some of the songs are like straight up hardcore songs, and some of the songs are weekend band songs. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
you were talking about where they wanted to be as a band, and I was thinking, listening to this, it really shows that they wanted to be two different bands, essentially. Uh, since
Yeah.
Samson ends up leaving after this.
Yeah, and he didn't really fit in with the band, at least in terms of like where they wanted to go, what they were the type of stuff they wanted to do. I think he just wanted to play music and he got put in these situations. Well, they would go out there and play shows and he'd be, you know, being harassed by skinheads and shit like that, and they'd just be antagonizing the crowd. And I don't think from what I've seen, John K. Sampson didn't seem like he was all about that. It just kind of made him nauseous.
Yeah, I don't think him and Chris did not have the same energy. Not remotely.
No, and you can just tell from listening
Same
to the songs.
passion, just not the same energy.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's just, John's songs are just they're not political. I
No,
mean,
no, they're just slice of life
yeah,
or emotional or personal.
right.
Um, Chris Hanna's got a really good podcast a friend of mine told me about, and I was listening to just some clips, but he talks about this record and that it pretty much says exactly that. He goes, John's great. He goes, and we both write great songs. He's a really talented dude. He goes, but there's a reason that John went on to write Fallow and like we went on to write Empires and Ashes. Like you said, it's just two different thought trains. Like it's
Yeah,
two totally different
totally.
schools.
Totally. Um, and the other thing about like I would say this whole record is I really like the amount of self-awareness that he's got injected into all these lyrics. There's
Yes.
so many different parts where he just talks about, how he's not perfect and how he's just working on it and trying to be better, but he's also, he's pushing other people to be better too and to meet him in
Yeah.
the middle almost. Um, and just there's a lot of talk about his sexuality and things that he's experienced um and I just think that that self-awareness also helps make this record even more unique and interesting um compared
Well,
to a lot of the
it keeps it
other.
from being judgy too.
Right,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
totally.
it never feels like he's throwing stones at people as much as he's like forcing people to confront shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't get that probably anywhere better than the title track, where he's just literally wrote a song to I guess, antagonize all the frat boys that were there to just sing along and mosh and shit.
Yeah, less talk, more rock. Yeah, I mean, it's a direct shot across the bow to like, are you here because you give a shit, or are you just here to have, a 250 tall boy and like maybe knock somebody's, block off?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and Genius has a bunch of great annotations to these songs on it, which apparently come from so a lot of them come from the podcast. Um,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
the
There's a lot of notes.
the bit here for this song is the message is simple. If you listen to and buy our music, you endorse our values and are enriching the lives of people you disagree
Yeah.
with.
That's fucking awesome. It's, you know, last episode we were talking about, I brought up the whole thing about like whether a title track embodies the entire ethos of the whole record sometimes. And I think
Mhm.
on this one it does. This
Oh,
is
absolutely. It
the
speaks for itself in a
yeah,
huge way.
this is the mission statement for the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um I mean, I brought that up because we were talking about Millen Collins for Monkeys. And Josh, I really wanted your take on Monkey Boogie.
Oh my god, I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to that song. I do pop that album on every so often, but it's usually on shuffle with like a couple other Melon records. But there, some of those I love Melon, but those early Melon records have some very peculiar songs on them. I mean, How to Clean Everything, or not How to Clean Everything. What's the first album called? Same Old Tunes has a couple really oddball, like the bowling song is real goofy on that one.
Yeah. Um I prefer the I guess more the goofiness of somebody like Propagandhi just making fun of people.
Yeah, I would have to go if I'm gonna go Melon, I'm gonna listen to probably the later albums typically.
Yeah. Um but yeah, going back to the first track, apparently I'm a PC fascist. Um I was wondering, there's a line in this song that I was wondering if you guys thought could, might have actually been one of the like a shot at Fat Mike when he says, um, "If you buy that shit, how long till it's me who serves as your commodity?" Is he
Oh yeah.
maybe like saying something about Mike turning them into just like another, product to
Yeah, just
sell?
another thing to sell, yeah. I mean, it certainly could. I mean, I don't know if it was I mean, obviously it was intended that way. I guess maybe not intended specifically at him, but just in general, but it's still an I mean, if he's out there putting out albums, it's still an indictment of, it in general.
Fly back around.
I mean, and it wouldn't be the first or last time he would take a direct shot. I mean, Rock for Sustainable Capitalism has a couple pretty direct shots from Potemkin City Limits at
Oh
Mike
yeah,
and company.
yeah. I just didn't know if maybe even this early on, if he was kind of like just saw
Yeah, I mean,
the way
I bet
things
you there's a
were.
sliver of it where
Yeah,
it's like, even if it's just a thought, like I bet there's a little pettiness in there for sure.
yeah,
He's a
perhaps.
young dude. He's an angry dude. I mean, it's kind of
Oh
hard not to slide a little dig in there when you can, especially if you've got the plausible deniability.
yeah,
Yeah, but the lines that precede it are what makes me think it's just kind of a more like a general comment on like wage slavery and like
Sure.
essentially using humans as machines, right? Because he says talking about cultures that treat creatures like machines.
yeah. I
So I
mean,
don't think it's
the song
other
is
than indirectly.
right. The song is about, the treatment of animals and how we do that and how even, he says, his otherwise. Oh wait, where does he say it? Oh yeah, yeah, right away. It says otherwise brilliant and productive friends take final refuge in character assassinations. Um, but that they're ignoring, um, I guess, what's I gonna say here? Um, like they're, he's hanging out with people who think, he goes to the punk scene to hang out with people who think differently from the mainstream, but his friends won't make the effort to like change their life for a cause. And they could continue to support the eating meat and the treatment of animals. It's just like factory farms are maybe they're probably more fucked up than they've ever been these days. Even worse than back then. Even um,
I'm sure.
it's he's got friends that claim to stand for an alternative lifestyle, but they just kind of when it comes to that particular issue, they just kind of like ignore it and just move past it. Um,
Yeah.
and he's just putting them on trial, basically. You want to move on
None
to
of
the
us are
next song?
none of us are vegan, by the way.
Yeah, no.
I
I
don't
mean,
I don't
you
I don't
take
want
one
to
look
sound
at me,
like
I think, and figure it out.
I don't want to sound like we're living up to any sort of ethical standard here.
No, I'm ethical, but
Uh,
I have no willpower when it comes to burgers and stuff.
it's
Yeah,
exactly what the song's about.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
uh,
but I would also like, while we're all on the same page there. Um, I'm not going to like treat people in the punk scene who are big animal rights activists as if they're outcasts. I'm not gonna,
No.
you know, that's not that's not cool. Which is actually what the next song is kind of about too. Um, it's just it's him talking about growing up going hunting and how it affected him. And
Oh
and
shit.
my
Okay.
I mean, God, it must have really scarred him, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's we talked about the honesty angle, and I mean, the note I had was that it just far and away is probably the most honest and level-headed take on being vegan or vegetarian, and being honest about it. I mean, it's very, like you said, it's very self-effacing. It's like, look, like I've made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but this
Yeah,
is the path I'm taking, and to me, this is the most ethical way to live.
yeah. I mean, and hunting. This is like his take on hunting is actually the opposite of what most media is like. Sort of shows hunting as being. You know, most of the media portrays people who hunt as being like you know it's some noble thing or it's like a man sport or some shit.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the relationship between man and
right,
nature.
right, right. And you don't usually get the take of just like, oh, I went hunting and it changed my life in that I don't ever want to hurt another animal again. You know?
Yeah, when in
But
reality, it's usually just a guy in a tree stand with a six pack of High Life who missed the deer, and so he's got two squirrels instead.
yeah,
Real hero.
yeah. But yeah, it's usually like a manly sport,
It's
which
not an indictment of Miller High Life, by the way. I like Miller High Life.
same.
I mean, no, hunters drink Bush
I
Light,
like Bush too, though. Like, I don't mind Bush. I don't like Bush Light, but I like
chip
Bush.
mildew.
Couldn't tell you last time I had Bush.
There's in my younger days, we would make people play the Bush game, where if the tallest Rocky Mountain lined up with the opening of the can, you had to drink the whole can. It was the worst game ever.
That is a terrible game.
The only people that would play it were people who never came over before and realized you don't actually have to play the game.
So I think the next song that really, I mean, I love this song, is I Was a Preteen McCarthyist,
That's a
which
really cool
I
song.
think,
It's
Alex and I think we're talking about it a little bit before we started recording. Um, and apparently it's his dad being a member of the military, and so like that's the the source of all of his travels and realizing the horrors of war was that Gatling that he touched strapped to the nose
it's
of a
a
U.S.
powerful
baseline.
song, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
It's
and
easily probably at this point their most personal track too, I think.
Yeah, and it's also certainly his most personal track,
Sure.
for sure. Um, but the other thing with it though is that uh, I like this is another area where he's like self-effacing himself.
Yeah.
Self-effacing. He's self-effacing. Is here he's saying, look, bought into this bullshit too.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not wrong for having been fooled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. I mean, the whole purpose of, deceiving people is that you're not the only one that's falling for it, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, it's about being, like, sort of indoctrinated by that whole concept of, like it's like, "Oh, the military, it's this thing that you should be proud to be a member of and be a member of a family that supports the military," and it doesn't that never talks about the other side of things. They just want
Yeah.
you to believe that you know, they're a necessary force that guards the world from all the evils that are out there, but, you know, he touches on it like he's facing that past of when he says the at 12 years later the Gatling I'd touched was strapped to the nose of a USA 10 um and separated flesh from bone, honed its kills on lesser humans. Like that's just he says lesser humans, but that's you know him basically saying what they want you to think.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. And in the
yeah,
lyrics that every iteration of lyrics I saw, it's in quote. It's always in quotes too, specifically.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, we'll talk a bit more about deserving victims and undeserving victims
Oh
here in a
yeah.
moment.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to learn all about that, you can read Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky, which details
Um,
that exact concept in detail.
yeah. So yeah, the last song that we haven't really touched on. I mean, do you guys want to say much about Anchorless? It's a song that wound up becoming a Weaker Than song.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I like.
sounds
I love this song. This is my favorite song that John did with Propagandhi. Um, and Ben, you like to talk about cool down tracks.
oh yeah.
This is a cool down track in like not that it's like any less good. It's just that it's a much, it's a different tone from the, first three tracks. Um
It's like a nice cold glass of water on a hot day.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Um
Do you prefer one version over the other? The verse of the
I've
propaganda or the weaker thens?
I've gone back and forth, man.
Yeah.
I can't pick.
You
There
know what the secret winner is the iTunes Sessions version of it because they add a Moog to it and it's fucking awesome.
really. Okay.
Yes, it's very good.
I don't even know where can I find that?
I'm sure it's on YouTube. Somebody's probably ripped it and uploaded it.
Okay.
At worst, I think you can buy it on iTunes for like $1.25 or something.
Yeah. Is that a full band track or is it like a
Yeah,
stripped
it's like
down?
a 4-song full band, but it's like a stripped down version. It's like
Okay.
a I don't know if it's acoustic, but yeah, they add some Moog to a couple songs, and it really is a nice touch.
That's cool. But yeah, I love this song. You know, thematically, I always think of like it reminds me of Jawbreaker's "Boat Dreams from the Hill." Um,
Oh yeah, it's
because he
super
says,
super
just
accurate
because all the I mean, he literally says, a boat abandoned in some backyard, which just makes me think of that Jawbreaker song.
for
Um,
sure.
and yeah, I love the song. I love both versions of it. Um,
I love John K. Samson.
yeah, so a wonderful, wonderful song.
Can we talk? There's a couple songs I want to talk about real quick. The public disservice announcement from Shell, which I don't know. I guess you can't really call it a song or like a skit, I guess.
Yeah.
And the only good fascist is a very dead fascist.
Well,
Almost feel
that's on
like
side two.
Yeah,
oh shit, yeah, okay,
yeah,
we'll get to that. But
we'll get
but
to it.
weird like Dead Kennedys vibe. Like it feels like something I could hear Jello putting together. Like
I can see.
I could see the Dead Kennedys playing like this weird backing track and Jello just kind of ranting with this like corporate, letter and like reading it to a crowd because like East Bay Ray broke a string or something. Like when he tells the redneck story on God, what is it? Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death, I think.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is one of those. It's a concept track, but it's one of the rare concept tracks that, in my opinion, really works. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
it fits so well on the album, and maybe the first time you hear it, like, I mean, it's honestly, it's hard to think back to, like, what it was like the first time I heard it, but I'm sure that it was a little bit jarring. I was like, "Wait, what is this?"
For sure. Like I went back to the album because I haven't listened to it in a fair minute, and I completely forgot how just sort of like it's almost like Circus Calliope music at times. Like it sounds like something it could have been on the Killer Clowns from Outer Space soundtrack,
Fuck.
which they're making a video game for, and I'm so excited. It looks incredible.
Man, get this clowns out of here.
Alex loves the Dickies. I can't wait till we cover all this in Puppet Stew.
Yo, the Dickies have some great songs. Just they
You
also have
just don't
some
like the
they also have some really bad ones. Uh,
oh man.
but, I think what's so interesting about, uh, this song, Public Disservice Announcement, is that it sounds like if you didn't know any better, if you're, like, listening to it, you might think it's like, "Oh, this is some really solid satire," but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it's a real letter that they at Shell put
oh
out.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that makes it even more powerful and even more fucked up.
Was it in reaction to like a specific incident or something? I don't because I didn't get a chance to look up the actual context of it.
Was it?
Let's
I
I
think
don't
it
know.
may have been a.
Because it seems like it's pretty clearly like a reaction to like a threat of protest, but I don't know if it was in regards to like something specific or what.
It may have been nationalizing the oil supply in a country.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
I'm not certain on that. We should verify that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only information that I was able to find was, um, it was called "Clear Thinking in Troubled Times," and it was published in the Winnipeg Free Press in 1995.
God, could you imagine writing something titled that with your head that far up your own ass?
Oh, yeah, and they did it proudly, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
very much so.
It is a really condescending letter, I
Yeah.
would say. Um,
Okay.
and it's just yeah, I mean, it's fucked up. Uh, just I mean, if you pay attention to what these oil companies do, they're constantly apologizing, they're constantly saying that they didn't mean for this to happen, and they never do anything to actually, like, prevent all these disasters that they cause and all the problems that they cause.
They knew about climate change, I think, before pretty much anybody.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sure.
Yeah,
they were paying climate scientists, and climate scientists showed them like, this is bad. We should do something about it. And,
yep,
uh, they just used nothing but like kind of the slimiest tactics to like, the results in the paper have to be like probabilistic. They have to be estimates, right? Just 'cause that's the way that like
yeah,
statistics and experimentation works. And so they use the fact that there was like any uncertainty in the measures, like in terms of forecasts for uh, future emissions and temperature rising. Uh, they used the fact that there was like any uncertainty over it. So like the uncertainty, I guess, in terms of what is it, 3 degrees warmer or 3.1 degrees warmer, like that sort of uncertainty to essentially just trash the research,
Debunk
say
the
like,
whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Good lord.
we don't even know if that's true,
How
sort of
can it be,
stuff.
how can you rely on this? There's at least a 3-degree margin of error.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Holy
Very,
fucking shit, man.
very weaselly stuff that
yeah.
yeah,
It's
they
just
do a lot of that.
that's their MO, casting doubt on actual scientific research.
Yeah. Sounds like some shit the cigarette industry would have pulled or has pulled, I'm
It
sure.
did pull.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's exactly out of the cigarette
Yeah.
industry's
I mean,
playbook.
they all use the same playbook, but
Yeah.
oil
It's
oil
all
companies,
the same set of rules.
yeah, oil companies are the worst. Um, always trying to justify all the shit they do by talking about economies and oh, we're helping people by bringing
Yeah,
jobs.
the greater good,
Yeah, well,
if you say so.
bunch of fucking bullshit that is, as we all
So
know now.
so we got one last song on the side, and that is Rio de San Atlanta, Manitoba. And big thing I want to say about this is this could have easily been on Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes,
Yes.
Yep,
and
This
it
is like the
yeah,
proto
definitely.
today's Empire's track, 1000%.
Yeah, and
great too.
this is the opposite of the cool down track.
Yeah, I mean, this really kicks shit up.
Let's get it going again.
It was sort of like almost like Chris was like, "All right, I like Anchorless, but like we really gotta bring the heat with a follow up track to this one.
Yeah,
It's
when
like
they're
it's
sequencing it.
bringing the energy down too far. Let's fucking kick them in the nuts." They just go for it.
Anchorless is just like slowly cruising down like a country road, and then this song hits, and you're going straight down a hill like with the gas pedal.
Yeah,
It just really, I mean, it goes, man. This track absolutely crushes.
yeah. And there's not really anything to say about the lyrics other than the fact that if you just read them, it's very straightforward.
Yeah, that's the thing about this record is it really doesn't mince words a lot of times. So there's a lot of songs with the lyrics where you listen and you go, "Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it's about that. Like, it's about all I can say. It's very direct. It's very honest."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's, I mean, it goes right back to that being the ethos of this record of like, put everything on Front Street, and if you don't agree, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I wrote down that this record is like getting punched in the face and then watching that person
100%.
and then that
Yeah. And then
person
maybe you get
endure.
hugged in the middle twice because John K. Samson is like, dude, that looked like it hurt. I'm really sorry. Like, do you want to go get a sandwich? And then all of a sudden, John K. Sandwich is buying you Pita Pit.
John K. Sandwich.
John K. Sandwich. I wish AOL Instant Messenger was still around. That would be my screen name instantly. John K. Sandwich.
I love it.
Oh, all right. Before we flip the record over to side two, we decided to make homework for ourselves. We decided to give reading the manufactured consent the old college try. Alex actually has the book. I listened to the audiobook version on YouTube and only made it about halfway through, which is generally what I did when I was an undergrad, which was read maybe half the book at best, and
Yeah.
then, you know,
I
I
think
tried to read it on my Kindle and I read chapters.
yeah, you get the gist of it pretty quickly though. It's like reading it, like I didn't even get halfway through. I got probably like 75 pages in, somewhere
Yeah.
around there. I got it. Like it's basically all I'll say is this book was written in 1988 and
Yeah.
it had like a couple of updates, but the last time it was updated was in 2002, so it does not talk about the internet. Um,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
guess the little bit that they did say about the internet was just they mostly updated it to talk about 9/11.
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Right. And but I mean the interesting thing is that like while there would be a lot of interesting, it would be interesting to hear the thoughts on what the internet's doing to people. It, it's mostly it's exactly the same, just in a different way. They're talking about how the media um, convinces you of certain things without you realizing that it's coming from people who want you to think a certain way. Which it's basically this book. It it confirms all the things that you already might be suspicious of. It's just a confirmation of it.
So, I mean, it's a bit more subtle than that, though, because he's like, or at least I want to stress here, like, he's not talking about it as like some sort of conspiracy.
No,
It's the way that the incentives are structured,
right.
politically and with regards to the news media. The fact that there are profit-seeking firms means that you know, this is just how they're going to behave, right? Like he's essentially using like something kind of like game theory. It's not written down formally like game theory might be, but like he's essentially talking about strategic interactions between media companies, the government, and corporate interests, and how, it's not like they're, in terms of like news anchors or reporters, it's not like they're being told you can't write stories about this. You can't do that. I mean, sometimes it does turn into that,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
like,
there's examples of that exact thing happening,
yeah.
but it's more about you're disincentivized from doing those things. It's
Well, and
not
they
that you're
only,
explicitly told usually.
yeah, and they'll only hire, people that fit into that kind of
Yes,
narrow ideological framework.
right.
I think it's changed a bit with regards to, he picks on the New York Times a lot in it, and I'm not saying that they're angels, but like
They are not.
I think the way that the incentives changed have kind of forced the Times to try to kind of, you know, re-angle the way it does its work. It's, I mean, I'm gonna sound like I'm singing the praises of the New York Times here. I'm really
Right.
trying not to, but like,
Yeah.
you know, their product has definitely seems to have gotten a bit more like, uh, willing to question power. Uh,
Yes. Yeah. It seems that way.
but he talks about, in terms of that power, uh, he talks about how when there's a scandal, when a scandal breaks loose, then all of a sudden they kind of ease things up and you get all these stories being pushed through there again are kind of questioning the system more than usual. And so it's kind of like this cycle of like a little bit of freedom following a scandal and then clamp down.
Yeah.
Um, and the other interesting thing is just that many might have thought that the internet could somehow democratize the spread of news, and maybe it did, but you
Maybe
have
for
all
a
these.
little while, but now it's sort of just contracted again and maybe even gotten worse.
Well, I mean, democratized in terms of like there aren't big barriers to new media outlets starting up. It's
Yeah.
the barriers to broadcasting yourself to the rest of the world are a lot lower now,
Yeah, they're
Yes,
essentially
definitely.
non-existent at this point. I mean, anyone
and
could become a journalist.
that's the problem is that there are
Journalists.
no barriers, and
Currently, yeah,
so
yeah, we should bring the air quotes back, journalist.
Because
you're
Alex
getting
Jones is not a journalist, though he seems to.
He's barely a human being.
Yeah.
and you're getting just free, like just unadulterated propaganda,
Hmm.
but like from like much more fractured interests almost.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, the book is neat. I would also highly recommend. Um, there's a 3-hour documentary.
I think I'm gonna
Also,
try the audiobook because I had I'll readily admit I had a very tough time with the print version.
yeah,
So
It's
yeah.
not like super dense or like hard to understand necessarily, but it's a lot to try and take in, I think.
Mm,
what this book actually like really highlighted for me was how like there's a whole bunch of like conflicts that happened in the 80s and the 70s that I just don't remember ever learning about, at least in any kind of like real detail. There's a lot of different case studies that they have in here that I'm just like, wow, okay, I vaguely know what that is. And so
Yeah, I've
I ended
heard
up
like sprinkles of things. Yeah,
so though I read a small, portion of the book, I spent a lot of other time just like being like, "Oh, what exactly is this?" And then
trying
I'm
to like
just like,
contextualize what you're reading and everything.
right. And so I would end up on the internet for, a couple of hours just like going down a rabbit hole, just like
Oh yeah,
looking at all these different things, which was really interesting. So,
yeah,
yeah,
it'll take you some places, that's for sure.
yeah. It's a really fascinating book. And, maybe in the future we'll have like a separate podcast that talks about maybe like a couple different Noam Chomsky books and or just some other like relevant literature that some of these bands might have been reading at the time to inform their music.
all right. So, anything else, guys? Or
No, I'm good with that with side one. Yeah,
all right, side two is going to kick off with one of my probably my favorite song on the record, maybe, and that is "Resisting Tyrannical Governments." It has one of the all-time greatest lines in a song, which is "Jesus saves, Gretzky scores."
which I
The word.
genuinely thought was the title of the song for years because I didn't own the copy of the CD. I would just hear it in friends' cars, and I just kind of I guess assumed that was what it was called because it is such a catchy part of the song.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah, yeah.
that part of the song is probably the most, memorable in the entire song.
Do you think this is the
And
most melodic track on the record, other than like
Uh,
the obvious JKS stuff?
yeah.
that or the last track.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, that's true too. I just love the melody of the song. I don't know, something about it. The hook, the Jesus Save Gretzky Scores part, just it all comes together really well for me.
So
Yes.
the melody in "Refusing to Be a Man" though is like campy and trying to be like kind of campy on purpose sort of thing, right? Like it's supposed to sound
I
like a
think
you
so,
know
but I,
like
I I
a
do feel like there's a genuine sense of like forlorn there too.
Yeah, I mean, this, for as heavy as Propagandhi will get even later, they almost lean even more into the melodic side.
oh yeah.
Even it's like they get heavier and more melodic at the same time.
Yeah, it's
And
the most intensely personal they'll be for a long time too.
yeah,
Because I
so
mean, after this, Empires and Ashes is almost, I would almost say, strictly political for the most part. I mean, there's really not a lot of personal stuff I can think of on that album. Not off the
There's
top of my head, anyway.
certain there are lyrical passages that I would wonder if they're personal or not.
Yeah,
Did one of them observe the conversation in Ladies' Night in Loserville
true.
directly, or did there's some stuff about
doesn't hasn't he talk about finding a dildo or something and
in
in
his
one of the
Oh yeah, in
neighbor's
songs?
the drawer, or is that in
Yeah,
the, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's in
So
it. Getting busy behind the I think like some sort of convenience store
yeah,
is also a lyric in the first song.
yeah,
So
one side dick, the other side Jesus.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's it. Um, but yeah, I do. I think that the melodies are what make resisting tyrannical government really stand out. Even
Yeah,
more like I mean, it's just like it's already just a fucking incredible song. It's one of the best songs here. Um, I go back and forth whether I like this or Nation States more. Might I don't know. I might prefer this one. It's just it kind of depends on how I'm feeling at the moment.
yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, Jesus Save Jesse Scores is like an all-time favorite lyric. Pretty fantastic.
the worker's slave, the rich get more.
So, I mean, yeah, that's you can just sum up the world with those 2 lines.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, pretty accurate.
so for the weaker than super fans here, did they ever record gifts?
No.
No, as far as I know, I don't even know if they've ever played it live. Really.
Wow. That's a shame. It's a
Yeah,
fantastic
it's a
song.
great song.
Very good
Yeah.
song.
Um, and I mean, I'm just genuinely surprised that that the Weaker Thans didn't do a version of this song because
I
I
know.
mean, like, lyrically, it fits in with I mean, it just like it would have fit on Fallow. They could have just done it.
Yeah, I could totally see that going on Fallow. Maybe not on the one following, but definitely on Fallow for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I mean, it's got that same melancholy that all of his songs carry. It's not
Oh
it's a
yeah,
little bit it's still, it's a little bit more upbeat and catchy, but um it's a sad song. Like it's a song where you listen to it and you're like, "Oh, it doesn't sound like a sad song." And then you like actually read the lyrics, you're like, "Oh, okay." It's just about like growing older and reminiscing and reflecting on the past and like I guess reconciling who you promised you'd be with where you ended up. And yeah, it's really well written.
The last few lyrics to the song I thought were particularly poignant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's definitely got quite a bit of melancholy, especially when you read the lyrics.
yeah. I looked online. It looks like there are live performances of it, but it seems like they're just like JKS solo shows. Like I don't think any of them are actual Weaker Than's performances.
Okay.
So there's one from 2009 and one from 2012.
I wonder if Propagandhi ever played this song though, because
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true
think
too.
I don't think John was in the band for too much longer after this record.
No, I wouldn't think so. Because I mean, I bet you the release date between this and Fallow aren't like super far apart, really.
Well, it's 3 years. Fallow
Is
was
it?
99. So
Oh, okay. I didn't
there's a
realize that.
decent gap there. That's something
Right.
See if
you can say about Propagandhi.
they're
John K.
prolific, man.
Well, John K. Sampson actually he definitely belonged in the band because of how long they took to write albums.
Yeah, you're not fucking kidding.
Because most of the weaker than stuff was just as spaced out as Propagandhi's.
So it looks like there's a video of Propaganda doing gifts, and it looks super old, like camcorder old. So
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's
cool.
I'm assuming
That's
probably
out
when
there.
John's still in the band.
Yeah, that's cool,
I got a question for you guys.
Sure.
What exactly are the great historical accomplishments of
dude.
your race
See,
that make you so proud to be white?
that is probably one of my favorite lyrics. Like
Yes, it's a great one.
just ever. It just every time I listen to this song, I cannot help but at least crack a smile when it gets to that part, just because of when he drops sitcoms at the end of that list. It fucking kills me every time. It's like, what exactly are the great historical accomplishments of your race that make you so proud to be white? Capitalism, slavery, genocide, sitcoms? Fucking kills
I
me.
do love a good sitcom.
I thought it was a sitcom.
What's that?
I said Seinfeld was a sitcom.
It's true.
Yeah, exactly.
I never realized until yesterday that the joke that they end Seinfeld with is the joke that they open. I don't know if they open the first episode with, but it's in the first episode. Because Jerry talks about George's shirt and he goes, "What's up with that second button?" He goes, "It's in no man's land." He goes, "The
Yep.
second button, it's very important placement." And I watched some like countdown video of like 10 best, pilot episodes or something like that. And they played part of Seinfeld when it was still like the Seinfeld Chronicles or whatever the original name was. And they do that joke. And I was like, oh my God, that's from the final episode. I had no
Yep.
idea.
Attention to detail.
For sure.
I also love "Kill Them All" and "Let a Norse God Sort 'Em Out."
Yes. That's one of the greatest. I wrote in my notes is an amazing line and one of the best lyrics I've ever heard.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
It's a just a hell of a track. Like,
Yeah. This is the other song I mentioned that feels like a weird like Dead Kennedys Black Flag Circle Jerks vibe to me too.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Something
very
like that.
aggressive, it's very snotty, but again, it's kind of weird and like sort of doesn't fit, but it does.
it certainly fits the tone of
Yeah.
the record. And the other thing that I'll say about it is that it's another song that you can point to that shows where they go in the future because
Yes, absolutely.
they just fucking go for it, man. It's just going for the throat, and it's awesome.
You guys like A People's History of the United States?
I think this is really good. There's a weird part in it that reminds me of Animal Boy by the Ramones, like the 80s Ramones song. And it's like a weird like 3 second section where it's like the same melody as the chorus of Animal Boy. And it fucks me up every time because I then start singing Animal Boy in my head. It's really bizarre.
I'm not familiar with that song.
It's good stuff.
I'll
80s
check it out.
Ramones, whatever, despite what someone might tell you, 80s Ramones is the best Ramones.
Really? I've always stayed away from
It's
it.
when they started. I love it. It's when they started writing all kinds of weird shit using piano and writing weird doo-wop songs and
Oh, dude, man,
goofy shit like that.
I don't want any doo-wop.
No, you want the Ramones doo-wop, trust me.
Really?
It's good
Alright,
time. It's good
alright.
times. Howlin' at the Moon is a jam.
Okay, I'll check it out. Um, I you know, I this isn't I would say this isn't, like, one of the ultimate highlights from the record, but, I mean, it is still fucking great, and
Yeah.
I just I always really loved that first verse. Um, at some turning point in history, some fuckface recognized that knowledge tends to democratize cultures and societies, so the only thing to do was monopolize and confine it to, like, just yeah, it just not mincing words, just going straight
No,
for it.
it's a perfect like microcosm of just everything that makes this country super and the world super fucked up.
Yeah.
So really cool thing is the most of what he's singing about in here is very much like Noam Chomsky. One thing
Yeah.
one thing he frequently says is, whoever controls the flow of information, those are the people with power in a society.
Yep.
That's what this is all about.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the song title is not a Noam Chomsky reference. It's a
Right.
Howard Zinn reference.
Howard Zinn.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a Howard Zinn book.
Yeah.
And what's also funny is that there is a book, well, I mean, that the reference is to Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
So they changed that part of it to, History of the World. And then there was a book written in 1999 by a British journalist named Chris Harman that used the title of this song. And it probably it's probably not because he's a fan of Propagandhi. But
Be cool if he was though.
it would be cool, but I think he was also playing off of Howard Zinn's book title.
Sure. Of course, yeah. How did you guys feel about State Lottery?
It's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah?
Yeah. So this one actually, or no, it's People's History of the World started off with Chomsky talking, I think,
Yeah.
at the beginning of it about the rich history of democracy. This one's one of my favorites, though.
Well, no, it's State Lottery that starts off with the Chomsky quote.
Oh, it is okay. I got that
Yeah.
backwards then.
Mhm.
Shouldn't they feel terror for the path that lies ahead? Defeat and has the people, like this system's left for dead. I don't know. I just think that the lyrics to this are pretty great. Anytime that there's an election and people celebrating, even if I'm somewhat happy about who won, it still can't not think of this song. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, democracy is just it's I just wonder what's even gonna happen with us,
I don't
and
know.
even in like the near future. Um, did you see there? I should have pulled up the actual article. I meant to do it and I just forgot. But I recently, just in the past like week or so, or saw an article about just like I guess it was just like a general poll of Republicans and Democrats about how they feel about democracy, and like a full like third of our country, or at least a third of the people polled anyway, seem to be really into the idea of a strong man that just takes control and we don't vote for him. They're like literally like a third of the people polled are just like fascism, cool, why not?
Yeah, just let one guy run. It's much easier.
Yeah. And
Christ, you guys.
yeah.
We're
I
so
mean,
fucked. We're so fucked.
I feel like those people have always been there.
Oh yeah, they're just louder now. They realize there's other people that think the same stupid bullshit they do. And so now they all feel bound to that.
Some wild collective delusions going on.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
These
Oh
are the
man,
same people that are out there seeing Joker and telling me it's a good movie. It's not a good movie. It's a bad movie.
I agree with you. It's not a good movie. It's
It's
a movie
it's
it's
a bad movie.
a movie that seems like it stands for something, but then like the further you go into it, you're like, wait, this movie doesn't stand for anything.
I've never paid $12 to be beaten over the head before.
It's
And
just
that's
like
exactly what happened when
just
I saw
like
Joker.
yeah, that's that movie sucks. And now you're gonna get a musical sequel, so have fun with that.
Ugh. No, no one asked for that.
No.
No one asked for it.
Mm-mm.
This is Trump's America. We're getting a Joker musical sequel. You did this, America.
okay. Is it going to star Ryan Gosling and what's that one girl's name?
I would go see it if Ryan Gosling was in it. I'll watch that guy act in anything.
Emma Stone.
He's so good in Remember the Titans as like the young sweet little boy who just sings doo-wop songs.
He's in that movie?
100% he is. He's
What?
like he's a very minor character and he's probably like 17, but yeah, he's definitely in it.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Good times. I'll drop a link in the bio for my Ryan Gosling podcast.
Why do you like him so much?
I don't know, man. He just seems really charming. I just think he's really talented.
I don't dislike him. I just
Yeah. I don't even really like him that much. I just thought it'd be funny.
damn, I didn't mean to expose you.
Everything's a bit with me. You'll find that out sooner or later.
All right. Let's talk about this last track because this is actually my favorite song on this record.
It's a great song. Ryan Gosling would love this song. He would totally agree with it.
Sure. I don't know where you're getting that from, but okay.
I don't know. I'm just guessing. He seems like a good dude.
Okay. Yeah, like we were talking before, like I think, I love the more melodic stuff.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of the more melodic tracks on the album.
It matches the content really well. I mean, it musically feels very like I mentioned earlier, kind of feels forlorn and sort of sad in a way.
It sounds like a love song.
Yeah, I get that vibe too. I mean, it's just got a very, I don't know, a very intimate tone to it.
Yeah. I think it's just taking it it's just an honest, sort of like look at how like the expectations of your gender have been,
Yeah,
you know,
the way culture shapes
yeah,
your
that's all been
perceived
set out for
whatever.
you as to how you're supposed to act and how just choosing to not fit into that alone, just like that one thing is like a huge act of rebellion.
Yeah, it's very much going against the boys will be boys mentality.
Yes. Yeah. Um and I love that. I love everything about these lyrics. I just think it's, you know, it is how I feel about myself a lot of times.
Yeah,
Like
and it's
I don't feel
warts and
like
all, just like a lot of these songs too.
yeah, like I don't feel like I definitely don't feel like I fit into the, what the American, idea of, or really I guess maybe not just American, but like the world's view of like what how a man
The
has
male
to,
view of yeah.
yeah, just like how you're supposed to act as a man. It's like fuck you.
Lucky thing was I grew up in a family of only women, so,
Yeah, I same here
I
pretty much.
it was easier that
Primarily.
way because I didn't have to deal with, some jerk dad.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there was always male figures around, but my primary parent, I was raised by was a mother my mother, so
yeah,
same boat.
uh, yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. I really, again, like that he's pointing out that he's not immune from this,
Yeah.
and I wanna we're gonna contrast this with there is a very similar song on the Good Riddance record that I think for the most part
Oh, I think I
does
know,
this
yeah.
in the entirely wrong way, um,
Mm,
other than the Cinderblock verse, which was wonderful. Uh, so
Cinder Block's always great.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that'll be interesting to dig into that because I don't think I've really gotten too far into that one.
Yeah, it's a good and then as soon as you started talking, I realized what song you were referencing, and it is gonna be a very interesting conversation because I do feel
it's
like Good Riddance kinda drops the ball a little bit.
it's so fucking judgy, and
Yeah, oh
like
yeah. I mean, that band in general has
White
always
Knight
felt kind of judgy to
sort of
me.
stuff, and like this is like just the opposite. It's very open,
Yeah,
uh,
it
willing
goes
to
back
accept
to I mean, we've
flaws.
talked about it 3 or 4 times with this record is the honesty,
Mhm.
Yeah, and
and
it's a very
it's
personal song.
super refreshing. Like, it's nice to have someone say all this shit to you, but then be like, "It's cool though because, like, I've done the same fucked up things and, like, I'm just trying to be better, just like
Yeah,
I'm trying to convince you to be better."
yeah,
Mhm.
And, like, it points out problems while offering up solutions, or at the very least, steps towards them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I always found it like a comforting song. So it's like okay, it's
Yeah.
like you know, all you meet or you see so many like people out there that like try to claim what a man should be and all this shit, and then like to come across a song like this, where it's just like no, forget that. It doesn't. You
It's
don't have to
not that.
fit
It
into
doesn't
it.
have to be that. It can be whatever,
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, yeah, just this was definitely the first song I ever heard that addressed this kind of topic before, and it
Absolutely.
stuck with me this whole time. And it was after there's a long period of time where I did not go back to this record for whatever reason. I don't even know why it
Yeah.
was, but when we decided we were gonna do this, and I went back and checked out this album, I was kind of like, it's like, okay, like I wonder if this one is as good as I remember it being. And like
Yeah.
honestly, this might be, I mean, this might be my favorite Propagandhi record. It's
Wow.
yeah. I think I just like this one the most. For as unique as it is.
I would say I came out of this liking this record significantly more than I did initially going into it. I would definitely agree there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think this is the best Propaganda record.
Not my favorite, but it's I've my appreciation of it has definitely, I would say, probably kicked it a few notches up in the rankings for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I personally would put this in. This is like one of the best records that this label ever put out.
For sure.
Yes.
There's not a weak track here, and in fact has some of the best songs that they ever wrote. Period.
Fair.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. It's a unique album, and I think it's also notable in that I there's almost nothing. I don't think there's anything here that that dates it. Like you could play
No, not
this,
really.
right? You play this for somebody today that never heard it before, and they could reasonably believe that it was just released.
Yeah, I mean, the first record's got stuff that is like time and era specific to a degree, but there's nothing like that here. It is so kind of evergreen because it's more dealing with issues than,
Yeah, it's talking
items, I guess.
right. It's talking about issues that never got resolved, and in some cases just got worse.
Sure.
Which we've talked about this before, but a lot of fat bands do cover topics that are evergreen and talk about things that like just they're they seem prescient. It's like,
Mhm.
oh,
Absolutely.
you're singing about this thing that like is still really relevant today.
Yeah, especially, I mean, with as political of band as of a band as they are, it's none of these are issues that have ever improved really. If anything, they've festered a lot of them, like you said. So, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, the horrible nature of human beings allows it to continue to be evergreen and relevant.
yeah. Any more thoughts on the album?
Just that it's great, man. This band rules, and I'm very happy that we get to look at a rather large number of their albums going forward.
Yeah.
We're halfway through the Fat Wreck Propaganda
I
discography
know.
now.
I forgot that they go later on. As soon as I said that, I was like, "That's not true," because they leave at some point.
Oh,
I
I guess
know.
I
So
forgot. I guess I thought it was three more, but maybe it is just two more.
I think he's right. I think it is just two more.
Mm. Okay.
I
They
think
make them count, though.
Yeah.
I think G7 releases the one
Yeah,
after is
supporting cast.
Potemkin. Yeah.
Potemkin,
Because
yeah.
yeah,
Potemkin
the
was
last fat one.
the last one, and then uh, what was the next one?
Supporting cast.
Yeah. Okay, so that I for some reason I thought that was fat.
Yeah, that's my. I thought that was the last fat wreck, but yeah, I think it is. That is a G7 one. That's my favorite Propaganda record,
Man, that one's got some
dude.
really, really good stuff on it.
Fucking bangers. It's got the
Yeah.
Bangers Embrace, which is the greatest song about a heavy metal road trip ever. It's got the weird Sabbath cover at the end of "Come to the Sabbath," which is like
Oh yeah, yeah.
just Chris, somebody else, and a keyboard.
Yeah, that one's man. Was what's it called? The Flensing of Sandor Cats? That song's
Yeah,
fucking
Sandra
incredible.
Cates. Oh,
Yeah, man. That's
the
great.
it's such a dark opening too, with all the screaming,
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a
bone saws and whatnot.
yeah, I mean, that one's just that's a sad song, sitting there listening to that.
100%.
Jeez. But
Alex.
we will probably cover probably cover that one in a rival record at some point in the future,
Oh
I would
yeah.
imagine.
If nothing else, we'll find an excuse to talk about it. We'll create a bonus episode just to talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
that's right. All right,
Alex, you want to tell?
let's get into the rival records
Yeah.
now.
Do it.
So first up, let's talk about Inquisition's Revolution. I think it's called Inspiration. Um, so this came out in 1996, released by Papa Wheelie Records. Um, Inquisition is a band from Richmond, Virginia, and is the precursor to Strike Anywhere. So you'll
Yes.
if you
You're
if
getting
you're
their name from a song on this record.
exactly, yeah. Um, and this record is really good. I this was another one that
A
like
lot better than I remembered.
yeah, I would say the exact
A
same
lot
thing.
better.
Yeah. And it kind of blows my mind that Fat didn't release this record because this
Yeah.
really fits. It would have fit really nicely between Strung Out and A Veil.
Yeah, it almost felt like even like a Southern No Use for a Name at times. There's a little bit of that vibe in there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the only like criticisms that I really have for this record is that some of the songs are a little long and maybe didn't need to be, and that's just how I ended up feeling about some of it.
Yeah, it could
Um,
use a little bit of a little dose of brevity, but the songs are killer.
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here.
A lot of good crowd parts, a lot of songs with like opportunities for like people to just pile on and like sing on top of each other.
Yeah. So I would say this record definitely compares to Propagandhi in terms of like its politics, but something that I noticed going through all these songs was like how much Thomas he brings it up over and over again, uh, just expressing frustration and anger about how religion influences government. And it's a definitely a valid concern, especially these days, considering the Supreme Court has just become just so in favor of their religious ideologies. I would say it's pretty fair to be worried about it even back then.
A valid concern, more
Definitely.
Oh,
and
I
more so.
mean, in a lot of ways, it was worse back then.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, barring what's going on with the court system, like um, in a lot of places, religion had like way more power in terms of it. I kind of think that. I mean, I was kind of turned off in one of these songs. It was, I think, Doubting Thomas, just because it was like very like not just anti, religion having power in government, just seemed extremely like anti-religious. And I kind of thought like, if I probably grew up around
Yeah,
Richmond, I
I
probably would
can.
have that strong of a distaste for it as well.
Yeah. Um, I had the same note about how like I definitely would never say that just because you believe in a religion doesn't mean you can't think for yourself, which kind
yeah.
of seems like that's what he's saying, but I don't think that's true.
It's
Um,
also worth considering that he's probably like 20 years old when this record
Yeah,
came
yeah,
out
that's
too.
also true.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
He's a young kid. Like at this point, he's still a kid, I'm sure, or at very least close to it. Like, so you're operating on a much narrower field of life experience, people experience. You haven't fully grown up yet.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so what were some Ben? What were some of your standouts here?
So I like the title track, other than the part where they sing the title. I
Yeah, I
hate
wasn't
I
crazy
hate
about
this
that.
album title so much. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah.
and so them singing it just I didn't like it. I liked Idle Kids Part 1, hated Idle Kids Part 2. Um, I liked Warning, Uproar, Strike Anywhere, and Cop Song as well. Thought
Uproar
those
and
were
Strike Anywhere were my two that were on as
yeah,
well.
Yeah.
Uproar's just got, like I said, it's got that really good crowd vibe. There's a lot of like quiet band, loud singing parts for like people to latch on to. It seems like it's gonna be a good time. Like it just seemed like it'd be a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all on the same page there. I those were
Yeah.
also like what I think
I'm
the
really
music's
am
about.
genuinely surprised how much more I like it now. It was another one of those records where like it was fine when I heard it. I certainly didn't dislike it. Obviously, I already had gone into it being a Strike Anywhere fan. Um,
Yeah, same.
and I went back and I was like, this is real boring. Like I feel like I'm not gonna dig this. And just it really very quickly was like, this is a lot cooler than I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the first two Strike Anywhere records are still like blow this completely out of the water. But
100%.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, those first two, man, like that band falls off a little bit after that, but those first two are so goddamn good.
Yeah, I think probably the first one they did for Fat was probably the last one that I really liked.
Yeah, all the way through, I would agree. After that, yeah, this one's good, but there's a few clunkers. Like it'd be turned into that.
I just think they turned into a band that was just they're just like repeating themselves is what it felt like to me.
Yeah, at
Like,
least it
it
wasn't as
definitely.
disastrous of a nosedive as Rise Against.
Oh god, no. No.
They've been on a real like a real roster of record labels.
Have they really?
Well, so the Jade Tree,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, they've been bouncing around.
Fat Wreck, and Bridge Nine, and then
Oh, that's right. They were on Bridge 9 for a good little while there.
yeah, for some reason I thought they had gotten onto Epitaph, but I guess that's not the
It
case.
wouldn't be a bad fit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them move or have moved to that label.
Their last release was actually on Pure Noise Records, which
Hmm.
Weird.
I know they have like a bunch of pretty big bands on it, right? At least at one point.
They definitely did. I don't know if I certainly don't know if they still do or not.
So I thought that the Knock Loose band had a album with them. Yes, they 100% do. Okay. Um, yeah, so interesting fit for them on there. Yeah, I like this. I like Strike Anywhere better. That's kind of how I came
Yeah.
walking out of
Yeah,
this.
I
still
think
my verdict too, but yeah, I'm much happier to hear I enjoy this a lot more this time.
yeah. I think it is interesting that this band shares only, only Thomas is he's the only
Yeah,
person that goes on to
yeah,
Strike Anywhere. And I find that interesting because how similar this band sounds to Strike Anywhere. It's like it's almost like Thomas is just like, okay, this band's done. We'll start another one that sounds very much like it.
right. Wonder how much of it is that Avail influence creeping through Richmond too.
I mean, it's what is it? It's that yeah, Hotel X, Idle Kids
Yeah,
Part 2, that, like, it just reeks of Richmond, Virginia, It's
for
just you listen to
sure.
it and you're just like, "Oh, I know exactly where this came from."
And if I've learned anything from that 15-year-old Avail trailer for that documentary that's never going to come out, is that they have influenced pretty much every band in that damn city. So
Well, yeah, I
the
mean, Smoke or
DNAs and all
Fire,
those, 100%, dude.
Avail Jr. is what they were referred to.
Yeah, it's Boston, or what was it? They were Boston dudes by way of Virginia or something like that, I think, or vice versa.
Oh, they
Ugh.
weren't from?
It's one or the other. Either they're
Oh, really?
from RVA and went to Boston, or they were
Mhm.
Boston and like relocated to RVA. One of the two.
Okay.
There's some sort of a Boston connection there, maybe.
I just know that Smoke or Fire is Ben's favorite band.
Saw him twice in 1 week.
Maybe even 3 times in 1 week.
See? Look
I
at
may
that.
have seen them in
You love
Cincinnati,
Smoke Fire.
saw them play into the Sacred for Stars, and then I saw them play with
Yeah,
Lightning.
and the 108 show. Yeah.
You
God.
got burned out on that band real hard.
Yeah, 5 times in
Oh,
one summer
enough,
is too much.
enough
It's
with the
way
fire
too many.
jokes.
No way, man. I
Especially
don't
not a band I did not like a ton.
Yeah, the first
Right.
time, let alone the next four.
yeah.
All right, so the other rival record, if you could guess, is Anti-Flag Die for the Government. You know, Propagandhi and both Anti-Flag were, I think, very instrumental in getting me to look at the world around a completely different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Propagandhi, their music has held up incredibly, impeccably.
Yeah.
Not say the same for Anti-Flag.
I don't think this held up good when it came out either, though. I think this is about musically where it was at when it came out, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I still ride or die for this record, man.
Wow.
It's absolutely childish, but it goes so hard.
I so some things I realized while listening to this are I can't stand hearing Justin sing like in a clean voice. Sounds
Is it wor I
terrible.
was is it worse when he talks, though?
I like the shouting. I thought he was a good shouter, but
Yeah.
he's I can't stand the whining singing shit he does. Uh, a lot of these songs are really dumb,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oh,
They're
oh
it
very
is
yeah,
dumb.
just it is just way too long. 10 of
blatantly
these
stupid.
songs can be cut. I
Yeah,
actually
this
think
Oh
should have been
yeah,
like this should have been like an 11 song record, like
oh,
12
no,
song
no,
record.
no.
7 7
'Cause it
song
would have been
EP.
about 23 minutes.
I have a great 7 song EP from this.
Not shaving off Drink Punk. I'm sorry, it's staying
I
on there.
Oh
I did take that off. I so you do
no.
the same. Die
Oh,
for the
You Do the Same
government.
is so good.
She's my little go-go dancer.
Why?
Police state
Great
in the
song.
USC.
Uh-huh.
Fuck police brutality.
Yes.
You.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm being watched by the CIA, which probably is my favorite song on the record.
That is a good one. Can we talk
And
about
that
the bass line? Oh, sorry, I
Can we
thought you were
talk
done.
about the intro of that song? Half the song is him very poorly
singing
singing the national anthem, and it's
the
really interesting, and I'm kinda here for it.
Oh my god. I love the bass line in Fuck Police Brutality. Like, they're on some serious AFI Total Immortal shit in that song.
Yep.
Like, they just go off.
That's a
when
great
I
song.
first when I first heard this record, I thought Davey just read the punk scene was about Davey Havoc. I don't think it
That's
is though.
I remember that being a rumor when I first got into punk. Oh, and, like, I heard this record, like, people were like, it's about Davey Havoc because he wears makeup and costumes." And I was like, "Yeah, fuck that band." And, like, 3 years later, they were my favorite band. And they're still, like, my favorite band to this day.
Makeup and costumes.
Well, Days of the Phoenix had just come out.
I really liked Your Daddy Was a Rich Man, Your Daddy's Fucking Dead. I thought that
Yeah.
was a great
That's
song.
prime snotty Just Insane vocals
Yeah.
too.
So it's funny because I read that, um, I guess they were around, like, 2017, they were claiming that they wrote the song about Donald Trump's dad, but, uh
Oh, really?
but it doesn't match up with the timeline. I think
Fred
they
Tr
were
yeah,
probably just
Fred
they're probably just saying it to just to mess with the crowd or whatever, just
Sure.
to sort of stir him up, because, he didn't die until I think '99.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, it's a great retcon though.
sure, yeah, I can get behind
If
it.
you're gonna retroactively change the continuity on that song, why not
Well,
make it about piece of shit Fred Trump?
Yeah.
I wonder if Prescott died then. Probably not. I think he probably died way before that.
I don't know. Could always just Google that real quick. Um, but, one of my favorite parts about that song in particular is just the fact that he he calls somebody a brainwashed scumfucker.
You're a brainwashed scumfucker from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Just it's so bratty and immature, it's ridiculous.
It really is. I can't wait to use a New Kind of Army as a rival record so we can talk about This Is Not a Crass song.
That would be cool.
Dude, it's the best.
I mean, we're either no matter what, we're gonna be talking about some Anti-Flag.
100%. Yeah, it's inescapable. Anti-Flag
Yeah,
is inevitable.
it's true.
Anti-Flag is inevitable. But props to this band for exposing kids to injustice in the world and showing
Yeah.
kids how fucked up and shitty things can be. Like, this band will always have a place in my heart for just
Yeah.
the fact that they genuinely probably changed a lot of things in culture, whether people want to admit it or not. Bands like this, bands like Propagandhi, bands like Rage Against the Machine, like, kids don't learn about this shit in school. So where the fuck else are you going to learn about it?
Yeah. Right,
I
and
mean,
that's the other
you just
thing.
need somebody to point you in the right direction, and that's what these bands do, and that's why these bands are important.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say about the album, is just that's, like, why I still appreciate it, is because
Fuck yeah.
while I might not like most of the songs, they when they do, talk politics and they don't, 'cause there aren't that many songs that are goofy and weird. It is mostly political, and
Yeah.
while maybe it's not as, you know, as interesting as something Propagandhi wrote. It's
Yeah, it's not as nuanced, but
it's
it doesn't
usually
have to be.
yeah, and it's usually not wrong, you know?
Right. Yeah, as long as their hearts are in the right place, which they clearly are, and
Yeah.
like their ethics are in the right place, which they clearly are, like it's hard to argue with it.
But why do you like She's My Little Go-Go Dancer? Why?
'Cause it's just dumb and
It's
it's
so
fun.
It's
it's
silly. It
just
is very fun.
it's just like what what the hell kind of venue were they playing where there's like a girl cage dancing?
I don't know, man.
I
I
don't I
have a
don't
lot of
think
friends in
I don't think
Pittsburgh.
it's
I'll see if
real.
I can ask around. Maybe it was inspired by a real place. There is a former venue in Pittsburgh that's an Italian restaurant now that hosted like all these legendary hardcore shows in the 80s. And the same family still owns the place. And Henry Rollins sends them a Christmas card every single year.
But they don't do shows anymore?
No, it's been like an Italian restaurant for like 20 some like 25 years or something like that. But in the 80s, I think it was called the Electric Banana. You should be able to look it up. There's like a Dag Nasty bootleg recorded there. I
Oh,
think they actually used some of the tracks from the Dag Nasty bootleg there for the Can I Say reissue.
whoa.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I don't remember where those tracks are recorded at, but there's definitely like full set bootlegs of them at the Electric Banana.
What a
But like the
great
Descendants
name.
were there. I know, right? And it's so neat that the same husband and wife own it. Like they were just like, let's stop doing hardcore shows and we'll just host an Italian restaurant now.
Yeah. I mean, how there's not a single person out there that did a live album that was just so and so live from the Electric
At the Electric
Banana?
Banana.
That's
Dude, the
that's an
title writes
amazing
itself.
title.
Could you imagine like Husker Du live at the Electric Banana? Like that sounds like
Yeah.
an album that should exist.
They're one of the first people that the wiki lists as bands that played there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was watching a clip of Joey Ramone on 120 Minutes today, the old MTV show. And it was Lemmy shows up at one point and Morrissey was the musical guest. And they were talking, and the guy's like, "Yeah, we're coming back from break. Morrissey's up next." And Lemmy just goes, "Oh, it'll be great. It'll be really good, I bet." And the host just goes, "You're being really sincere too, right?" He goes, "No, I'm not." He just cuts the commercial real quick. They come back, and then Lemmy's gone, and the host is asking Joey Ramone about Husker Du, and Joey goes, "Yeah, I kind of think they just ripped us off, but they're not. Bob Mould writes some good songs." And I was like, "Those bands don't sound anything alike, man."
I mean, it probably just they're a punk band like they are, so they rip
Yeah.
them off
I mean,
a little
I'm
bit.
sure there's at least a little bit of Joey just being a fuck around in there, but it was really funny to listen to him call Husker Du a Ramones ripoff in like 1992.
Well, I think they were like who inspired them to play, but I mean that's also true of a lot of like early '80s
Sure, of
hardcore
course,
bands.
yeah.
They were all Clash or Ramones were their main
Absolutely, yeah.
influence. All right. Are there final thoughts? Anything you guys want to say? I
Just
mean, I think
my favorite dumb song on this record is definitely Drink Drank Punk.
Yes.
It's so catchy still.
I
It's
don't know
really
how this song didn't make it into like SLC Punk. I feel like it's perfect. Like it wouldn't have been out of place because they had modern bands on there. They had that Suicide Machines cover of Loretta Lynn in the party scene.
we're gonna have to revisit it. I mean, that is gonna be one of the things that we watch for a later
I'm gonna
episode.
I'm gonna recut the SLC Punk trailer and put it to Drink Drank Punk, and I'm gonna
okay.
show you
I think that
how
would work.
That would yeah, I
how
think it
good
would.
it was, how good it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
I don't have
Well,
any more thoughts on this one.
No, I got
cool.
nothing.
Thoughts overall about these albums, Propaganda, anything?
I would tell anyone to go out and buy 2 of the 3 of them and just maybe stream the Anti-Flag one.
Yeah, I mean, Propagandhi's an easy recommendation. It's
Yeah, you can't fuck with that band. They're bulletproof.
yeah, and this is yeah, it's remains one of the best records that Fat ever put out. Just
For sure.
at any
Yeah,
point.
it's if we were to rank these, this would be a top 10 record for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, corrections, or anything we might have gotten wrong, please email us at ontherecord@gmail.com so we can set the record straight in a future episode. If you've been enjoying the podcast, consider liking and subscribing. It's going to make it easier for people to find it. We're on other, we're on the major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And we've been talking so much about how this was one of the all-time great records, Fat Records has put out. Um, I know at least two of the three of us, if not all three of us, can agree that one of the others we're going to be covering next week, and that's Strung Out's Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues.
Another
Like,
Hall of Fame record for
It is.
sure.
Yes,
For
it is.
sure.
And that record came out the same day as the Propagandhi.
Did it really?
Yes, it
It's
did.
a solid release day.
Pretty amazing to release, especially like in such a short period of time. Fat released some of the just best albums ever that they ever put out in just within like, I don't know, it's like 6 months, 7 months, something like that. Because you had Haas, and then I mean, I think High Standard is just amazing. But just to put out Let's Talk More Rock and Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues on the
Dude.
same day is that's a hell of a trip to the record store, man.
That absolutely is. That was months and months of good skating for a lot of young people back then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
all right, thanks guys for listening, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
Take it easy, guys.